Hi, hello, good morning. Today we're talking about the newest release from Eldridge, namely the eyeshadow palette in the shade Betty and her Kitten Lash mascara in the shade Burnt Umber. I'm going to start off with a few words about Betty because I think it's important to realize that this palette is actually limited edition. This is a spring limited edition palette which is inspired by Eldridge's cat, whose name is obviously Betty. All the eyeshadows have like really cute cat-related puns to them. I absolutely love the names of the eyeshadows. It looks like a really fun palette. I'm very curious to put it to the test because I wasn't actually originally planning on purchasing this eyeshadow palette because as much as I love it, there are two purples in here, and for whatever reason purples are just not really shades that I'm super attracted to. But when I realized that the palette is of limited edition nature, I decided that I'm going to give it a go, and then if I end up not liking it, I can always sell it or I can pass it on to a friend, but I just didn't want to miss on it and then regret my decision later. That was at the point at which I realized that the palette is actually limited edition, because prior to that I actually didn't realize that that was the case. Obviously, the palette being named after a cat and, you know, myself being a huge cat lover, that really struck a chord with me. And I have to say, Charlotte H, so our beloved Charlotte Holdcroft, did a demo of this palette and I was actually very impressed with how the palette looked on her. So I can't wait to try it in a little bit. When it comes to the Kitten Lash mascara in the shade Burnt Umber, the decision there was made swiftly and it was very positive because I have her eyeliner in the shade Burnt Umber, and it is one of the most beautiful and I think flattering against my eyes shade of brown. It's this gorgeous warm toned ochre type brown, and I think it really complements my eye color. I absolutely love that pencil, and when I realized that the mascara has the same shade, I was instantly drawn to it, and I was also quite curious to try the Kitten Lash formula. Now I will say this, I usually don't buy expensive luxury mascaras because I just think they're really not worth it, and we're going to touch upon that a little bit later when I do the demo for the mascara. But it was really the specific color of the mascara and the hope that it's going to be a really good mascara formula so that I actually use the mascara. And the problem with colored mascaras is, as much fun as they are, if they don't show up or if they have a shitty formula, I'm not going to use them and they're going to go straight to the trash. So I kind of hoped that this being the color of Burnt Umber and in the Eldridge mascara formula, which I've only heard good things about, that might be a positive, you know, combination of factors, and I might actually get a lot of use out of the mascara, justifying the 35 euros that I paid for it. I will say this, I don't know for how long Betty is going to hang around, so I think if you are interested, you should probably not wait too long to purchase it, because Eldridge's limited editions are they don't usually sell out instantaneously, but they do sell out eventually and they do not come back. So just keep that in mind. So the way I'm going to do this video is I'm actually going to demo the mascara and the eyeshadow palette separately, because I had a very specific vision in mind of what kind of look I want to wear the Kitten Lash mascara with. So the first thing you're going to see is actually the demo of the mascara. Now I already did that yesterday, so I want to preface the video by saying that the mascara, in terms of its quality, is absolutely magnificent, because I have a lot of issues with even luxury mascaras that tend to smudge at the end of the day. This did not leave my lashes. It was there hanging on until the end of the day. I didn't experience any smudging on the upper part of my lids or the lower part, because I did put a bit also on my lower lashes. I did not get any smearing there, and you should keep in mind I do not actually set my under eyes with powder. My under eyes just cannot do powder, so I don't powder there, so I just have concealer, and a lot of mascaras tend to smudge on my lower lash line area quite badly. This one did not. So that was just a little preview that I wanted to give you, but now I'm going to leave you with the demo of the mascara, and then we're going to do swatches and a look with the Betty eyeshadow palette. Okay, so the first portion of this video is going to be the demo of the Kitten Lash mascara. So this is not a new product for Eldridge, but it is a new color, and it is essentially inspired by a product that she has released in the past. This is her eye pencil in the shade Burnt Umber, which is this beautiful warm-toned ochre brown. If you want to know more about the inspiration behind the shade Burnt Umber, go and check out her release video. I have not tried her original Kitten Lash mascara because I usually do not buy expensive mascaras. I have a mascara that works really well for me, my holy grail, the Kiko Extra Sculpt. So if I'm going to use a black mascara, which I have for the past over a decade now, I will always buy the Kiko Extra Sculpt. I've bought other mascaras, including high-end mascaras in the past, and I've never had the experience that they blew me away so much that I would pay 3 times as much, because they're about 3 times as expensive as my Kiko Extra Sculpt. So I didn't buy the mascara to try her mascara formula. I bought the mascara for the color. I love using color mascara, but because I have very dark eyelashes, it takes a lot for a color mascara to actually show up as an actual color on me. And when I saw the color of this, and I adore Burnt Umber. Burnt Umber is one of my most used eye pencils in my collection, and definitely the one I use the most from Lisa Eldridge herself. But when I saw the color of this, my heart literally skipped a bit, and I thought, oh gosh, I really want this, and I really hope it's going to show up on my lashes. So I want to do a separate demo of the mascara because I had a very specific look in mind. I didn't want to combine it with the Betty palette. The Betty palette is going to be the next portion of this video that you're going to see later, because a lot of people have already done the combination of Betty with the mascara, and that's not what I want. I have a very specific look in mind for this mascara, and that is more or less a look with these kind of tones. So if anyone was curious, on my lids I have the Silk Liquid eyeshadow from Lisa Eldridge in the shade Gaia, and I have VR Nectar on my lids, and I have smudged a little bit of the Burnt Umber pencil in my lash line. And now I'm going to start on the mascara, and I'm going to prepare my lashes the way I usually do, which is eyelash curler and my Estee Lauder Little Black Primer. You may think that it's cheating and not really demonstrating the mascara by itself. We can agree to disagree. I want my lashes to hold a curl because I have very thick, coarse hair, and if I curl my lashes and I just apply the mascara, and from what I can see the mascara is quite a liquid one in terms of its formula, my lashes are going to droop right back down, and I don't want that. So I am going to apply my mascara the way I usually do, curling my lashes and the Little Black Primer, and hopefully the actual color will show up on me and it will look beautiful and magnificent as it does in my imagination. Okay, curling my lashes. I don't have an expensive eyelash curler, I just have one from a local store called Hema, and I usually curl my lashes at a few spots without pressing too hard, because I don't like my lashes to have a 90-degree angle to them. I want them to have more like a natural fluttery curl. And then I will work one eye at a time, because the Estee Lauder Double Wear is better when it has not completely dried yet. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this, and I'm immediately going to go into the Burnt Umber mascara from Lisa Eldridge. So you can see this already has a little bit of an effect on my lashes, but you're not really going to see much of the actual color of the primer. You're mostly going to see the mascara. So the mascara brush wand looks like this. It's a plastic one, and I don't really mind that. And I'm going to start applying the mascara as I usually do, which is I sort of like press the mascara against my lashes, and then I blink slowly. I don't think this is going to be the type of mascara that gives me what my Kiko Extra Sculpt usually does, because the Kiko Extra Sculpt is very impressive in terms of the volume and the length. But I am going to apply a couple of like coats of this to see how far I can get. So far it's applying really nicely, and I think I can see the color. It's separating the lashes quite nicely too, like I can comb a little bit through with the brush and I get a nice separation. Let's see. I don't usually wait when I apply coats of mascara, because I am very unskilled at applying mascara once it has dried down. Like once it has dried down, I don't know that I can do much. But I think I'm going to leave it at this right now. I'm going to go to the other eye, and maybe at the end I'll put just a little extra coat on the tips of my lashes. But so far it's looking actually quite nice. And maybe it's one of those where it needs to dry a little bit before it's even more impressive of a formula. My Kiko Extra Sculpt definitely needs at least a good week or two to dry down to its magnificent final form. So possibly this mascara also has this quality, but even right off the bat it's applying quite nicely, and I actually think the color looks very pretty. And I quite like it. It's such an interesting color. I really like the color. I'm going to apply a tiny bit here just on the tips of the lashes, but I'm also not going to apply too much because I don't like spidery lashes. I really like my lashes to be well separated. Oh, I forgot to apply a bit more on my lower lashes. One of the things I'm the most curious about is the smudging, because a lot of high-end mascaras, one of the reasons I don't really buy expensive mascaras anymore is because they smudge on me. The Kiko Extra Sculpt is one of the few that really doesn't. Okay, so this is the Kitten Lash Mascara. I don't think at this point I can get this formula to apply with more volume. I think it's coating the lashes very nicely, you can separate them very nicely, so for what I personally like visually from my lashes, it looks really, really nice. I love the color, and I think maybe once this dries down a bit, it will also give me a little bit more volume. I'm missing just a little bit of volume, but honestly for a mascara that I just opened, this is pretty much what I expected. But so far, I am really liking it. What do you guys think? Welcome back. Now let's do a look with the Betty eyeshadow palette. Let me first show you the palette up close and personal. FYI, the packaging is the standard Lisa Eldridge eyeshadow palette packaging. There is no limited edition component to it. It doesn't look different or feel different. It is exactly the same format as her other eyeshadow palettes. One very important thing to remember about this palette though. There are no matte eyeshadows in here. There are only satins and metallic type eyeshadows. So if you wanted to have mattes, you would have to dig out your other Lisa Eldridge palettes and rearrange them to put some mattes in here, because Lisa Eldridge's eyeshadow palettes have these little pins in here, so you can pop out the eyeshadows and you can rearrange them easily any way you want. I've actually rearranged some of my other Lisa Eldridge palettes. I have Sorcery, Fawn and Vega, and my Sorcery and Fawn actually have some shades swapped around there. I think for now I'm going to keep Betty in its current format, but if I at some point figure out that I like it in a different, you know, color story configuration, I might actually try that. Now, as I said, the palette is inspired by her beautiful cat Betty, whom I think you can see on the promo photos. If you go on the website and you like purchase the palette, I think the little tracker on the website is in the shape of a cat, which is absolutely freaking adorable. All the eyeshadow names here have cute puns referring to cats and to the, you know, behavior or outer look of Betty. Some of them are duochromatic, some of them are more satin in nature. Again, because we're talking about colors that are present on Betty, I don't know that we can talk about cohesiveness of the color story, although I think the color story is quite cohesive. And you can get different looks out of it. I also think it's quite springy because of these like lavendery type shades here. This shade here immediately reminded me of Lavendering from the Risque Rose Quad, so of course we're going to do a shade comparison. I don't know that I'm going to do many shade comparisons, but for starters, let's do a couple of quick swatches, and I'm just going to do like the shades in rows, starting like this. So we've got High Maintenance, Posh, and finally on this row we have the shade Lavender Queen. High Maintenance is a luster, Posh is a luminous shade, and Lavender Queen is a satin metallic. And on the bottom row we've got the shades Prima Donna, Starlet, which is the duochrome that reminds me of Lavendering, and finally we have probably my favorite name of an eyeshadow in the whole palette, which is Talk to the Paw. And Talk to the Paw is a gorgeous dark brown taupe. So here you've got the 6 eyeshadows from Betty. They look very, very pretty. I think the actual eyeshadows are very pretty, and they're all colors that I theoretically will enjoy quite a bit. So I have no doubts that I might actually be keeping this palette around in my collection. Oh, let me tell you real quick. Prima Donna is a metallic, Starlet is a luminous duo, and Talk to the Paw is a luster, if that says anything to you. I interpret them more as like satins, metallics, and duochrome taupery type shades. Oh, by the way, if anyone was curious, on my lips I have the Rouge Experience shade Ashes of Roses, also from Lisa Eldridge. So I'm going to put the lipstick to the side so that it stops being knocked over. And I think we are all just extremely curious how the shade Starlet compares to Lavendering, our beloved Lavendering from Pat McGrath Labs. So we're talking about this shade here compared to this shade here from Pat. I think that in terms of their texture, they're probably going to be slightly different. The one from Pat, even in the pan, looks a little bit chunkier and drier to the touch. It is drier to the touch. So we have here Starlet from Lisa Eldridge, and this is Lavendering from Pat McGrath Labs. I think they look very similar. Here we have Starlet and over here we have Lavendering. I think, as I mentioned, Lavendering is just a little bit chunkier, and because of that it applies with larger particles of glitter and it is overall more impactful. But I do think that the base vein of these is the same. So they're both this like very interesting, almost like grayish blue base with the beautiful lavender pink sparkle on them. So honestly, I do consider these to be extremely close to each other. I would even like venture calling them dupes. They're not dupes in terms of texture, because this one is just a little bit more impactful, a little bit chunkier and more glittery, but this one is still very sparkly. It's just a little bit smoother to the touch. So I think this was an important comparison. Risque Rose was limited edition, long ago discontinued. So for those of you who have been lusting after Lavendering, I think this shade is actually quite similar. There is another shade from this release of the 3 quads from this release that I actually want to compare to as well. This is from the Fleur Fantasia quad, and the shade I want to compare to is this one here. This shade is called Lavender Blue, and this one is called Lavender Queen, and you can see even in the pans that they're quite similar to each other. So let's quickly give them a swatch. Starting off with the Lisa Eldridge shade, this is Lavender Queen, and here is Lavender Blue by Pat McGrath Labs. I think the Pat McGrath Labs has a stronger shift to the green blue, whereas this is more of like a cooler lavender purple, slightly blue hue. So these two are a little bit more different from each other. I actually really like the shade from Pat McGrath because it has that greenish blue duochrome going to it. But I was just very curious to see them swatched next to each other. In terms of other sorts of comparisons, honestly, I can't think of straight up dupes from Lisa Eldridge's online. I don't have any other purples from her. She has given us a lot of browns, but I can't think of any browns that are quite similar to the two that are in here. I don't really have any other golds from her because I don't have any other palettes from Lisa Eldridge which have golds and bronzes in them, so I don't have a dupe for this one. Honestly, I think the browns might be the only ones that might be similar to stuff she's already released, but for the rest this palette is quite unique to her lineup. So I think that without further rambling, we can just get into doing an eye look, and I'm probably going to do an eye look that you've seen a lot of other people do. Unfortunately, I'm not going to use the gold at all today because I have plans to use a bunch of these other shades here, these 4 over here. Now, I don't know how this is going to go because it is not a matte eyeshadow, but I want to take this shade here, I want to take Talk to the Paw, sort of as an outer corner blend out on the crease type of shade, and I want to put this shade, what is it called? The shade Posh, which is the other brown shade, all over my lids. But let's start off with the shade Talk to the Paw and just apply that here, sort of like in the outer portion of the lid, and blend it through the crease just to see whether you can get a good blend out of it, so that you don't have to worry that there are no mattes in here. And honestly, this is blending out quite nicely. I don't think it's a problem that it has a little bit of shimmer to it. It's applying very nicely. I think if you go in with a small increment and just build slowly and blend this shade, or possibly most of the other shades in here, you're not going to have any issues blending out. Just apply small amounts because especially this shade is also quite dark in nature. Oh, you know what? I forgot to zoom you in. I'm sorry. That's much better. I'm just still blending away the beautiful Talk to the Paw shade. I don't think this is a very unique shade. I think you can probably achieve this with other eyeshadows, even within the line of Lisa Eldridge. I can think of at least one eyeshadow from the Fawn palette, which strikes me as a rather similar shade. Obviously, her shade selection was limited to the shades that are present on the fur of Betty, so she didn't create this palette as like a color story that needs to be comprehensive and very unique. She was just inspired by Betty. I think it's important to remember that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a flat shader brush and I'm going to go straight into the shade Posh, because I am extremely attracted to this eyeshadow. It looks like a beautiful, sparkly, browny, minky type shade. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, this shade is so much prettier than I expected. I am already in love. This shade is so pretty. It has a bit of rosiness to it, actually. That is a beautiful rosy brown with sparkles that don't look to be silver, but more like almost like pink sparkles. This shade is so pretty. Came out of nowhere to snatch my heart. I love this shade. I'm giving everything a nice little blend. Honestly, I think you could probably use this shade as a one and done, the shade Posh, but I just really wanted to see what it does when it's paired with the shade Talk to the Paw. I'm going to apply just a tiny bit more of Talk to the Paw in the very outer edge of the eye for a little bit of dimensionality to the look. I'm going to use this same brush and dip back in Talk to the Paw to just apply a little bit of that right here on my lower lashes. Oh, you know what? I had a better idea. Let's take the purple. Let's take the shade, what is this called? Prima Donna. And actually mix that a little bit with that brown to apply on the lower lashes. I'm going to wear a purple vest later, so I think the little purple detail is really going to play well with my clothing today. And we can take a look at how this shade applies. I mean, lower lash line is not exactly a good place to showcase an eyeshadow, but I wanted to see what this does. In my inner corners, I'm going to take the shade Lavender Queen, this beautiful lavender purpley duochrome. And that's going to go right here to brighten up those inner corners with a beautiful glow. And don't you worry, we are of course going to use a little bit of Starlet. There's literally no dimension in the multiverse where I do not use the shade Starlet the very first time I try this palette. Okay, I almost don't want to because I love the undertone of Posh, but I am now going to take a little bit of the shade Starlet, the gorgeous duochrome shade, and I'm going to pop that over top of Posh, just here in the center of the lid, for some extra fun and sparkles. Posh doesn't really need it. Posh is quite sparkly on its own and it's a beautiful shade, but I want to try Starlet as well. This shade would also be beautiful in the inner corners. And it's really the type of shade that transforms a look. For those of you who have lavendering, you will know exactly what that does. But I also think lavendering can be used in a slightly different way because it's a bit chunkier. This is a bit smoother and it almost, you know, melts with the shadow underneath, whereas lavendering, because of the chunkier nature, actually applies a bit more as a glitter topper. That's beautiful. Okay, now I'm still going to apply the Kitten Lash Mascara in the shade Burnt Umber, and I'll be back to show you the finished look. Let's do a quick sparkle moment, you guys, just so you can see how incredibly beautiful Starlet and Posh look together. I am super happy with the final look, you guys. I am so much more impressed with both products than I expected to be, especially with the Betty palette. I think I would have really missed on something if I didn't have this palette. I absolutely love the eyeshadows that are in here. I'm super impressed by some of the eyeshadows, so much more than I expected to be. Are they truly unique to my collection? No, but that's because I have a very large collection and I have a lot of these types of beautiful duochrome shades also from Petalmorposis. As I mentioned, the lavender purple and the starlight shade are not unique to my collection, but I think to a lot of other people these are going to be extremely unique shades delivered in a beautiful high quality formula such as the Lisa Eldridge one. So I think honestly this is a beautiful unique palette and I highly recommend it. I was so much more impressed by everything that I tried today than I expected to be. I'm still very excited expected to put the bronzy gold to the test, but yeah, bronzy golds aren't really very unique, so there's really no expectation there that I will be super impressed. I expect it to be a nice satiny bronzy gold shade, whatever. But the other shades in here, especially the Starlight shade, the shade Posh, has my heart. I absolutely love it. I think this might be my favorite shade that I tried here. Not because I don't love the shade Starlight, but because I'm familiar with it. It's not the first time that I try an eyeshadow like this. I think for a lot of other people who have not tried Lavendering from Pat McGrath Labs, this will be the star of the palette and the eyeshadow that they consider the most unique. I'm on board, I support it. Starlight is a gorgeous shade, but there's something about the shade Posh that just, I know I'm going to absolutely love that shade. I'm going to go into this palette specifically to use the shade Posh. Same thing goes for the mascara. I didn't have my expectations set too high because based on what people have said about the Kitten Lash formula in the black version of this mascara, I thought this might be a nice mascara, but not really a mascara that does a lot for my eyelashes. And while I still don't see a lot of volume, there is very nice separation, there is a little bit of length, there's, you know, a little bit of everything, and it very much also fits the style of Lisa Eldridge. I didn't expect her to make a mascara which gives you like 10 times the volume. I think it is meant to do a little bit of everything. The color is absolutely beautiful. I think that you can see that it shows up on my lashes. It really doesn't look like a black. It actually looks like the beautiful brown that it's supposed to be. And obviously depending on how you apply it, like on bare, you know, lids, or paired with lighter colors like I had yesterday when I demoed the mascara, or with somewhat deeper colors, it will always show up just a little bit differently, but you can clearly see that it is not black, which makes me really happy. The wand of the mascara is really nice because I think it does a really good job at separating your lashes. I absolutely hate mascaras which clump your lashes and then you can't separate them because the brush just won't allow for that. This is an excellent brush because it really separates your lashes quite nicely, and I'm actually quite happy with it. I'm more impressed with the formula of the Kitten Lash mascara than I expected to be. So overall, I can say that I am very happy with my purchase, even though I wasn't initially planning on purchasing Betty and I didn't have high expectations of the Kitten Lash mascara. Both of these came for me and surprised me in the best possible way, and I'm super happy. I think I'm going to leave it at this. I'm going to wrap this video up. Currently I have nothing additional to share with you. If there are any specific comparison swatches that you would like to see, do let me know. I can't think of anything that I think would be more interesting. If there's anything else that you would like to see, either hit me up on Instagram. I think that's the easiest way. Just write me a message on Instagram and I can immediately send you a picture with the comparison swatches. Do let me know what you thought about the look. What do you think about the mascara, about the Betty eyeshadow palette? I would love to know whether you bought any of these products and what you think about them. As usual, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!